Welcome to the Comforte webinar series. I'm Brad Poole. I'm a solutions architect with Comforte. Today, Babak Maragachi, Lothar Ludke, and Renee Mode will be presenting our webinar, Unlocking the Power of MR-Win6530 and the new J6530. For the audio part of this presentation, you can either use your PC speakers or you can dial into the conference using the phone number provided when you registered for the webinar. Your phone will be muted for the duration of the webinar to minimize the background noise and distractions. However, you'll have an opportunity to submit questions using the webinar dialog box. I'll attempt to record this webinar and make it available to you early next week. There will also be a short survey following this webinar. Please fill it out and provide feedback so we can continue to improve our webinar process. So first we will hear from Babak Maragachi. Babak is the product manager for MR-Win6530. He has been writing software for DOS, Unix, and Windows since 1994 and has been working for ACI and Comforte since 1996. And now I'll turn the session over to Babak.
Hello and good day to everyone. I'm happy to provide you the first part of this webinar about unlocking the power of MR-Win6530. A few words about the objective of this webinar. This webinar should provide you a selection of many possibilities to customize MR-Win6530 due to your individual needs. Agenda of this webinar. This webinar consists basically of three parts. In the first part, we will be talking about the operations in MR-Win6530. What is an operation? And we will also define a simple script, which is a kind of operation in MR-Win6530. And we will map this script to a toolbar item so that the script gets run whenever you click on the toolbar item. In the second part, we will be talking about the context-sensitive facilities. We will see how this facility identify the host application screens by specific character patterns on the terminal screen. And we will see how we can use this facility to define specific actions or specific context objects to be activated whenever a screen context was recognized. And in the last part of this webinar, we will hear a few words about the Workspace, how to reestablish a complex set of profiles with a few mouse clicks. Let's begin with the first part about what is an operation in MR-Win6530. The term operation refers to any function that can be performed within the application. There are two basic types of operations in MR-Win6530. First type are the built-in operations, for example, menu commands, or also so-called host operations like function keys or break operation. These are operations which are specific to the host. And there are also the user-defined operations, for example, scripts or macros. We will have two demos here. In these demos, we will see at which locations the list of these operations are available, and we will define a simple script as an operation, and we will map it to a toolbar item. Let us go to MR-Win6530 screen. I have prepared a profile here. I will start this 6530 terminal profile, and if I go to the menu options and select communication, I get the communication interface dialog. In this dialog, you can select between different communication interfaces. The default one is TCP/IP Telnet. Here in this area of the dialog, you see a drop-down box called Startup Operation. And here you see a complete list of all operations available in MR-Win6530. There are a lot of menu commands, for example, edit copy, as you see here. And there are also the host operations, predefined host operations, for example, F keys or break, and so on. The operation which we have selected here as startup operation is logon. This logon is a user-defined script. Startup operation means that whenever the connection was established to the server, this script, this operation will be executed. So I close this dialog and I make a connection by clicking on this toolbar item, and now I will be prompted by a dialog, logon dialog. And this dialog is part of this logon script. And I put my password here, and now I'm connected. I have my toggle prompt here. Now we want to have a look, and on the script and logon script, we go to the menu Edit and select Operations. And here you see a list of all available operations, which I have, user-defined operations, which I have in this profile. If I select Logon and click on Edit, so we get to the script editor where this script, Visual Basic-like script language was defined. Now we want to define another script. For doing this, I go again to Edit and select Operations, and now I click on the button New to define a new user-defined operation. Here in this dialog, I get a list of all available user-defined operations, for example, macro here or script. I select the script, click on OK, and again I get into the script editor. Now I have prepared a script here, and I will simply paste the code of this script here into the editor. What this script does is that it reads the content of the 6530 profile and writes the content into a text file named screen.txt. So I give a name to my script, save screen, and then I save everything, and I close my script editor. Now I want to map this script to a toolbar item. For doing this, I go to the menu Options, I go to the menu View and select Toolbar and submenu Customize. Here you have the possibility to customize your toolbars. In this tab, you see a list of all available menu commands. And when you go to the tab Operations, here again you see a list of all available operations. For example, host operations, here is break. I can simply select and drag and drop these operations to a toolbar. But what I want is my save screen scripts. If I go to the category script, I see my both scripts which I have defined, logon and save screen. Now I select save screen and drag and drop it on this toolbar. Now I can also map icon to this one. And now if I click on this button, the save screen script will be executed, and here the user is informed that the content of the screen was written to this text file. If I open if I open this screen text in an editor, in a text editor, you see the content of the screen was written into this file. Now in the second part of this webinar, we will be talking about the context-sensitive facilities in Win6530. We will see what is a screen context. We will see that a screen context analyzes the screen pattern to recognize which host application is just running on this terminal. And you can define some context objects like menus or toolbars, and this objects get adapted, can be configured related to the active screen context. The best way to understand this better is to see it in a demo. When I go to my toggle prompt, you see here the title of the window contains the term default. What this means exactly, I will explain it later. And here you see a function keybar, and you see that this function keybar is labeled with default labels, for example, F1, F2, F3, and so on. And if I right-click my mouse, I have here a context menu consisting of different operations. Now I start a web NonStop application, for example, Fuses. And now the Fuses is started, and as you see, the title of the window, terminal window, was changed to Fuses. The main menu contains an additional item, Fuses, and the function keybar, the label of the function keybars, was changed to Fuses specific labels. And if I now right-click my mouse, we see another context menu, which contains Fuses specific items. Now what we want to do is to add the script which we just defined, save screen script. We want to add this script, this item, to this context menu. To do so, we go to the menu Edit and select Screen Context. Here you see a list of all predefined screen context. For example, here the last item is Fuses. If I select this item and click on Edit, here you see the dialog where this screen context for Fuses application was defined. Here you see an item pop-up menu. And if I click on Edit, here you see the location where this right-click context menu was defined. Now I want to add an additional item to this. I clicked on Insert, and here I have again a complete list of all available operations. And if I go down in this list, somewhere I will see my save screen operation, my save screen script. I select it and I close the dialogs with OK. And now if I right-click, I see my save screen script being added to this context menu. And if I click on this item, again, my script will be executed. And if I go to my editor, to my screen text, you see the contents of the screen of Fuses was added to this text file. Now, if I leave Fuses by clicking Exit, as you see, I get back to the toggle prompt. Now the title of the terminal frame was modified to default. Default means default screen context. When no other screen context was activated, the default screen context is active. So the function keybar has again the default labels, and if I right-click my mouse, I get my default context menu. If I now again go to Edit, Screen Context, and select my default screen context, and click on Edit, pop-up menu, Edit. Here again, I can insert a new item, select my Save Screen operation, close all dialogues, and now if I right-click, I have my script operation added to this context menu as well. And if I click on this, again the content of the screen is written into the text file. In the last part of this webinar, we will be talking about a Workspace facility. A Workspace ties multiple profiles together. This allows the easy saving and reloading of complex sets of sessions, and all the information about these profiles and sessions are saved as text file with the extension WWS for Win6530 Workspace. In the next demo, we will simply clone the existing profile to several profiles and put all together into a workspace. We go back to MR-Win6530. I make this window a little bit smaller, and I go to File and select Clone Profile. 4 times. So I have this profile 4 times. All defined scripts and operations are also available in this cloned profiles. I also open a file transfer profile, FTP profile. Here I have a file transfer window, and I may also change some attributes of this profiles here. And now if I go to, I have now a set of different profiles, 4 terminal sessions and 1 file transfer. And if I now go to Workspace, to menu File and Workspace, and select Save, I will be prompted with Save Workspace Profile. I write a name for this workspace. And now I will be prompted for each of these profiles to provide a name for these new profiles. I simply take the default names. Okay, now I've saved my profile, my workspace, and if I go to Workspace and close, all the profiles will be closed together. And if I go to File and recent workspaces, I can select my webinar workspace, and if I once click on that, all sessions will be started automatically. And I've forgotten to define an option for autoconnect for each profile once it's opened. So when I do select this option, each profile will get connected automatically. A few words as conclusion. The objective of this webinar was to provide you a selection of many possibilities to customize MR-Win6530. Because we didn't have much time, we could not show you all possibilities. It was only a selection. And it is one of the fortes of MR-Win that it is highly configurable and easy to manage. If we go back to this terminal, you see this this context menu is not only simply hard-coded, but it is configurable by the user due to its need. And when I go to use this, it's get adapted to this screen context. So when you have any questions in your daily work, do not hesitate to send us an email to support@comforte.com, and we would be happy to provide you more assistance to unlock the power of MR-Win6530. Thank you very much for your attention, and I give back to Brad.
Thank you, Babak. We did have one question. The question is the text file replaced or added to? And I think that's with respect to the save screen script that you were doing. So is it appended to the end of the text, or is it replaced?
Excuse me, could you repeat the question, Brad? I didn't understand.
When you invoke your save screen script, is the information appended to that text file, or does it replace what was in that text file?
It was appended.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then if there are other questions, then please do submit those. At this time, however, we will hear from Lothar and Renee. They will be presenting the J6530, including the newly released features. Lothar has been writing software for NonStop since 1991. He contributed to the development of MR-Win6530, and in 2001, he co-developed Comforte's JFT transfer program, written in Java. He is currently the product manager for J6530 and continues to enhance and support it. Renee has been writing Java software for Comforte since 1999. He was part of the development team for MR-Win6530, Comforte's first web-based terminal emulator, and he co-developed Comforte's JFT transfer program with Lothar. Renee is product manager for JPath and is enhancing and supporting Comforte's J6530. And now I will switch the presenters over to Lothar. And hopefully you can take it away now, Lothar.
Thank you, Brad. This is Lothar in the European office in Germany. And I will present the part on J6530. Let me first give you a little agenda, an overview. We will have on J6530 with its key features, web enabling, profile management in general, and also the new J6530, followed by the part profile management, talking about workspaces, session profiles, and deployment. Well, first of all, what is J6530? J6530 is a terminal emulator that is software to use your PC as a terminal for your NonStop system or for an IBM computer. The features, the key features, are that it is quick and easy to install on your server and will immediately be available for the users. You can have multiple hosts and sessions concurrently in one instance. You will also have encryption, encrypted terminal sessions in J6530 either with the SSL protocol or with the SSH. And you can encrypt the file transfer as well, be it IXF or FTP. In the future, there will be another feature that is single sign-on. The SSH component of the new J6530 will be enhanced by support for Kerberos-based single sign-on solutions like Windows Active Directory. It will allow users to participate in a Windows Active Directory domain to transparently authenticate themselves against any SSH2 server supporting Kerberos authentication via the authentication method GSSAPI with MIC. Well, then also there is a Guardian server, a web server included in J6530, that's comforte swap. And J6530 has a centralized session profile management. We will talk about that later. And also very important, J6530 is web enabled. What is web enabling? Web enabling means that your software, your applet, is downloaded from the web by means of a web browser, might be Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, or any. The user simply starts his browser, enters the URL, and then the applet is downloaded to his machine. And in turn, with the software running on his computer, he could establish a secure connection to the swap proxy server, doing an encrypted session, or he could as well directly connect to the normal port 23. So the user would interact just in a normal way with the tandem. Also, a second way to start a web-enabled application would be from another Java program that would make a call to another Java application, or also a third method to have a product web-enabled is the Java Web Start. Java Web Start is a helper application that gets associated with a web browser. A user clicks on a link that points to a special launch file, a JNLP file. And this causes the browser to launch Java Web Start and then automatically download and cache the application. It might also create a little icon on your screen which the user can click afterwards, or you can configure it that the applet is started immediately also. Well, here we have a little demonstration. Think about this icon being on your desktop. You click on it, and then the new J6530 might start. We have a live demo here. Hit the connect button and confirm, and then here would have your welcome screen. And just to have you a glimpse also on some new features, we have this navigation bar that the user allowed to do some little changes, color changes for example, or you might be able to change his fonts also. But this is just a little view into J6530. We will continue with the slides here and talk about the advantages of web enabling in general, because then an application, if it is 100% pure Java, will be platform independent. The maintenance of the desktop will be simplified, and also this central profile management is possible. This all is in contrast to a normal or an old workstation-based installation where you will have rollouts and you will have to touch every single station. When we say profile management, we have to talk about these terms. Terminal session, that means it is the connection between your terminal and the host. You will have output from the host and input from the user. You need parameters to configure your software emulating the terminal, like you will need the host address, port number, and other user interface settings. And all these parameters you can combine to a session profile, which is a set of parameters and which enables the connection to a host system. Each session profile is stored in a specific file. Here you still have an overview of the traditional profile management, where you can see that a rollout has to be done to every machine. Also, the profiles also have to put at every machine. Of course, this is difficult to maintain for large end user bases, and also the user could manipulate what is there. In contrast with the central profile management, the administrator configures profiles on his workstation. He configures startup files with references to these profiles. He puts them all on a web server, and he sends the link of these profiles or of a startup file to the user. The user gets the link and connects to the host. Well then, what is the new J6530? We enhanced J6530 with a new graphical user interface to make it more Windows-like, with more Windows look and feel. One feature is you can still have full screen mode. If you look at this, you could have your terminal at the right side, but we added a navigation bar, which we'll talk about later, here at the left-hand side, but you could turn that off if you wanted to. We also added a toolbar with the main functions, which automatically adjusts to the view. We added this profile tree or navigation bar, which shows all the profiles you have, and which also shows dialogues or editors available for a profile. And here we have such dialogue. The dialogue now also is a means for you to change parameters, to have them displayed or have the changes on screen immediately, and also to store these parameters in a profile later. And also we have context-sensitive help guiding you through the parameters. With that, we come to the second part already, the J6530 profile management, where we have to talk about workspaces first. Babak talked about that already. So basically, workspaces contain references to session profiles. A workspace is a set or a number of session profiles. The number is a variable. The profiles are loaded on startup. And here this chart shows the relation that a workspace contains certain profiles, but that one profile actually can be part of several workspaces too. A profile in the new J6530 then is considered a combination. You actually have three locations where your parameters are stored. First of all, there are the local user settings like colors, fonts, a few controls. This file is read first. It's written in the user home directory, which is a standard in Unix and in Windows also. And there we added the subdirectory for comforte and J6530 with the user settings profiles. Then, of course, you have the global settings from the administrator, which you can store and predefine on the server. You could, for example, establish profiles for a whole group of users. And then, of course, we have the J6530 defaults in the program itself. The parameters are read from 1 to 3, and you do not have to put all your parameters into the first or second location. You simply need to put there those parameters which are different from the default. How would you create a session profile? You would first create a workspace, then create and add profiles to your workspace, and you would deploy them all. That is, you would make them available for download. Creating a workspace means that you start J6530 in author mode. That would be a little HTML startup file with no workspace parameter specified, but with the author mode parameter set to true. Here's a little sample startup file with author mode value set to true. If you do so and start, then you will be presented with this welcome screen. And here you have the Create New Workspace button. And by the way, you could also use instead a JNLP, Java Networking Launch Protocol file. That is, you could use Java Web Start instead of HTML or the browser in order to start J6530. So once you have your new workspace, you could go ahead and create new session profiles for your workspace. You would click this little button in the toolbar, New Profile, and then you would specify your profile. You would select the protocol, 6530 or 3270. Would provide a unique name, like boss in this case, or a number, and any description afterwards, and then click OK. Also, once you've done that, you could go ahead and enter some information in the dialogues. For example, your IP address, port number, service name, encryption type for making the session secure. Also, we still have this keypad with the function keys, which you can configure and which you can have started automatically also or not if you want to. And another feature is that the administrator can decide which editors or dialogues the user who's using this profile actually is supposed to see. Like in the case before, we just made the color editor and the font editor available to the users. So now we are done with defining profiles, and we can go ahead and save our workspace. For this we have a wizard, so we click on the Save Workspace button in the toolbar. This little Save Workspace dialog will pop up, and here you can again specify a unique workspace name for the workspace, also the directory, that is the location on file where on disk where the workspace file will be stored. The wizard takes you to the second page where you can specify more attributes like a workspace description or startup behavior. And then on a third page you have even more attributes. Of course, you still need a license to run J6530. You could create automatically an HTML or JNLP startup file if you want to. Or you could decide if you want to start in author mode. All the results, all the files that belong to your workspace now are stored in the directory you specified. So you have some profiles, you have the startup file, and you have the workspace file. Let us talk about managing existing profiles also, and briefly, because this is fairly easy. You would again, to do so, start J6530 in author mode, and then here you have the open existing workspace from a local file. You would click that and would be presented with this directory, or you could choose a directory where your workspace settings are, and there you could open your workspace file. And then the profiles will be opened automatically and directly also. And here you can select the profile in your navigation bar, and then you can open the dialogues and change whatever parameter you want. And afterwards you again hit the Save Workspace button. Your dialog will pop up again. You can go through this wizard and store your files again. So now we are just left with preparing to deploy. That is, we would create a little J6530 startup file, HTML file for example, with reference to the workspace. You can see that here. The archives are referenced, and also the workspace is referenced. Or of course you could use the one that was generated also. Then you would take all the files you have now, the startup files, the workspace files, and the profile files, and zip them into an archive, making sure that you do not use compression. And this zip file you transfer to your NonStop system. Now on the NonStop, you have to prepare the web server. In our example, it will be our swap web server, but of course you could use any other standard web server on another machine. So here you would have, or you would have to create the volume with the J6530 files, the jars, the zip, the license, and in another directory you would have the information for the swap server, and they would have a startup file for the swap web server, referencing, for example, to your volume and to your zip file. Now with the swap web server started, it's fairly easy because you simply have to inform your users about a URL that he is allowed to use in order to start J6530. That is, on the web server, you would have an address of your NonStop system. You would have a port number for the swap web server listening to, and there you would have a startup file. Maybe you tell the first group to start file number 1, group number 2 to start file number 2, and so on. So this is the actual deployment. You only have to tell the user where the link is. And actually, this already ends our J6530 question or section. I hope you enjoyed this part, and maybe you got some new ideas how to improve your work with the NonStop system. Well, then, I'd say back to Brad.
Very good. Thank you. We do have a couple of questions. One question is if the information that we have covered today is covered in the manuals and the documentation. And that, I think that question goes probably out to both Babak and Lothar. Can this information be found in the manuals?
Well, we are still in the process of writing the manuals as for J6530, and we do our best to put it all in there.
Okay, so in particular the new features may not be yet documented in the manuals. That will be available for download from our website. Is that right?
Well, J6530 is not, the new one is not available for download yet, okay. So it's a little bit future we're talking about, but we are in the process of releasing a beta of the new J6530, which should be available by next week.
Okay. And so I think that answers the next question, which is we have someone that says they don't see these features in their current 8.3 release, and so I think these features are in the future release of J6530. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
This is why we first covered this general part with J6530 with the overview, because many things like a profile management can be established with the existing J6530, but of course that is tedious, and the new J6530, the new graphical user interface, will make the work a whole lot easier.
Okay. And then we've got another one, and then I guess I think you also said, could you repeat when this new release would be available?
We are trying hard to do that by next week.
Okay. And then another question, the J6530 profiles are stored on HP NonStop and are downloaded by the user, question mark?
Yes, that is true.
Okay.
You will prepare the profiles on a workstation, on the administrator's workstation. Then he will zip them, put them to the tandem, and Swap can work as a web server, that is, files referenced or linked to can be downloaded. And doing so, the reference will be made to the profiles and to the workstation files on the HP NonStop system as well, where the administrator put them all.
Okay, thank you, Lothar. Babak, back to the original question, are the features that you presented documented in our existing publications?
Yes, yes, of course. If you go to the installation directory of Win6530, you find online help file and also a manual in PDF format. And if you search for some terms like context, screen context, or workspace, or scripts, operations, you will find a huge number of items about these areas.
Okay, very good. Thank you. If there are no other questions out there, and we'll just give it a couple more seconds to see if someone submits something, we will close off this webinar. And I would like to close by thanking Babak, Lothar, and Renee very much for this presentation. And there will be a webinar exit survey that you will receive when you leave the webinar. And if you could please fill that out. Also, if you have any last-minute questions, if you would fill out that information inside that exit survey, then we will get back to you with response to those questions. So once again, thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Thank you.